Welcome back. Last year, we saw the production of fewer movies and big changes to entertainment, making it kind of difficult to reach out to different audiences. And with a lot of people being stuck at home, many of them turned to podcasts as a way to stay connected and to talk about important topics.
Joining us now to talk about the changes the industry has seen during the pandemic and the importance of podcasts when it comes to building your brand is creator and host of the Men of the Hour podcast, my good friend, Justin Crawford. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Matt and Shelby. It's good to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us. So, Justin, how can somebody start their own podcast, and why are podcasts important when it comes to expanding your brand?
Oh my gosh, the biggest questions of the morning, right? I mean, we saw during the pandemic, most importantly, that there was a spike in podcasts nonetheless, right? But then not in just the creation and how many more were opening up in the marketplace, but then the listenership. Are you guys ready for this number really quickly? 155 million listeners in 2020. If you want to sit on that for a second, I'll tell you, when you think about creating a podcast, it's very easy, right? You can have something as simple as a recording device. And as long as you have a domain to put your podcast on, Matt and Shelby, it's almost like, why wouldn't you launch a podcast in this time? And so anyways, that's what we ended up doing with the Men of the Hour. Was I thought to myself, if we're going to do something influential and try to add more value to society, podcasting seemed like the best avenue for us and my team. But then anybody can do it nowadays. And if you're looking at a small budget, I had no budget, and you can really launch a podcast with little to no time and technical things at the forefront.
And you kind of touched on it, Justin, just how things have changed. The course of podcasts have changed. We've seen it really most drastically back in 2020 with the pandemic. Tell us how people can kind of navigate that if that's an area they'd like to enter into.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have to first think to yourself, like, why would you want to listen to a podcast? What do you think you're missing in your life? I mean, there's so many genres nowadays, from self-improvement, which is our category, to sports, and then you have fun, celebrities nowadays, comedians, everybody's launched a podcast. And I'll be honest, the numbers probably changed today, but over 1.68 million podcasts exist. So really it's about going to the platforms like an Apple podcast, a Google podcast, or even a Spotify, and just typing in or going into the podcast umbrella and really kind of discovering what your niche might be. And then you start listening. If you're like me, you like the 10-minute kind of quick and easy self-improvement podcasts, or you want to listen to the Joe Rogans of the world. They usually can go for at least an hour, or as long as an hour rather. And it's really just about finding what you think you're missing in your life to then go pick up another podcast to start listening to.
Yeah, Justin, let's talk about sponsors real quick. Can you tell me about the connection between sponsors? And then, it can even be financially impactful for you.
So impactful. So I think when we started, we didn't think about making money on a podcast. And I know that's usually a long-term goal for a lot of people. We've only been in production for 3 months, 23 episodes now, and we were able to monetize. But it was about finding the niche of your podcast and then building the audience around it. Once you have thousands of listeners, then I think you can go to the marketplace of advertisers and brands. And similar to what people are doing on Instagram and social media now with like marketplace advertising, you then can find brands that are interested in advertising with your show, essentially how you're going to end up making money on it. And the ways that it's impactful, essentially, guys, is that, everybody wants to turn their passion project into a paycheck, right? So podcasting has been a way for people to do that.
So tell us, Justin, obviously you're the expert in this domain. Me and Matt, we handle the TV side of things. But what has it been like for you running a podcast?
Well, this is one of my jobs, and it's crazy because I didn't think, I was like, how much time am I actually going to spend doing this? And so we've been in production now for 23 weeks, which means I've probably been working for 30 weeks straight. And when you launch something you really want people to find value in, so the mission of our show is to really drive inspiration and hope through the narratives of today's most influential men, like Gabriel Iglesias, David Archuleta, Boris Kodjoe, all these Hollywood guys too. And I started thinking to myself, well, when I launched it, so long that you have a strong purpose and mission with your show, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure it gets off the ground. And that's what we did. And I think from the get-go, we knew that was our mission, and is why we feel like we've been going strong now for 23 weeks straight.
Yeah, Justin, we've got about 30 seconds, but where can people find the Men of the Hour podcast? And you've got some pretty cool celebrities on there. Do you have a favorite one that you can even choose? I know that's pretty tough.
Yeah, of course. Listen, we had people from comedian Gabriel Iglesias on, and he opened up very transparently about being a big man and how that kind of played into his comedy career. That was one of my favorites. Ricky Whittle, Hollywood actor, was incredible because every interview after him, I was able to get more relatable to a lot of these celebrity guys. But you can find us at Men of the Hour Podcast, literally on every single Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all the podcast platforms you want to. We're also on Instagram at Men of the Hour Podcast, and www.menofthehourpodcast.com. It's Men of the Hour Podcast everywhere, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. These guys have a lot to say about life, career, and hopefully drive a lot of inspiration and hope for listeners.
Justin, you've been great. Thank you so much for your insight. And of course, if you at home are looking for more details, you can visit our website, ciproud.com.